On certain nights, when silence fills the room and the shadows seem to crawl across the walls, there is a name whispered in collectors' circles, a name that to some means nothing more than an unusual doll, but to others carries with it a weight of dread. That name is Labubu. Small, strange, unsettling, this figure, born from the imagination of an artist, has become the center of a legend, a story of whispers, nightmares, and inexplicable events that follow those who dare to bring it into their homes. Labubu was first created by Kenny Wong, a Hong Kong artist who had long been fascinated by unusual shapes, grotesque cuteness, and characters that danced on the line between charming and frightening. Wong himself once admitted that the idea for Labubu did not come from playful sketches or random ideas, but from his dreams. In these recurring dreams, he found himself in a forest. It was not an ordinary forest, but one bathed in shadows, where the air was thick and hard to breathe, and where something small and quick darted between the trees. The creature had a face that was difficult to forget, large eyes, a mischievous grin lined with sharp teeth, and a body that moved with unnatural speed. Wong said that in his dreams he would always try to chase it, and every time, just as he thought he was close, the creature would turn, smile with those sharp teeth, and vanish into the darkness. He awoke night after night with the same dream, and sometimes with the distinct feeling that he was not alone in his apartment. The sound of tiny footsteps, laughter that echoed faintly in the corners of his room, the feeling of being watched by something just beyond the reach of his vision. For many, dreams fade as the day begins, but for Kenny Wong, the creature from his dreams would not leave him. It haunted him until he decided to put it into his art, to bring it into the real world in hopes that it would finally let him sleep. And so Labubu was born. At first it was simply a figure, a designer toy, unusual and eye-catching. Collectors loved its strange look, its big eyes, its menacing smile. Versions sold out quickly, new designs followed, and Labubu spread across shelves in homes around the world. To some, it was a playful piece of art. To others, it became something else entirely. The stories began small. A collector in Tokyo claimed she placed her Labubu on a shelf at night, only to find it tilted, facing her bed in the morning. At first, she dismissed it as her own mistake. But when it happened again and again, and when she began to dream of the same figure standing at the edge of her bed, she started to wonder if something was wrong. She said in her dreams, Labubu didn't move at first. It only stared. But with each passing night, it would get closer. Until one night she woke up screaming, feeling its breath on her ear. Another collector in Hong Kong described hearing laughter at night. High-pitched, childlike, but distorted, as if coming from inside the walls. He would wake to find objects slightly moved, doors unlocked that he swore he had locked, and Labubu never quite where he left it. The night he decided to throw it away, he claimed his bathroom mirror cracked on its own. He said he saw something crouched in the reflection behind him, smiling. It would be easy to dismiss these as stories made up for attention. But the number of similar accounts grew. In Taiwan, a family reported that their son refused to sleep in his room after receiving Labubu as a gift. He would cry and point at the doll, saying, "It's watching me." When they tried to hide the toy in a box in the closet, the boy screamed in the middle of the night, claiming it was standing at the foot of his bed. When they finally took it out of the house, the nightmares stopped. In Europe, a man posted on a forum about how he had collected several versions of Labubu. He loved their creepy aesthetic, until he began to notice strange things in his apartment. At night, he heard faint scratching sounds from the shelves. He thought it was mice, until he realized the sounds always came from the same spot, where the Labubu dolls were displayed. One night, he set up a camera. The footage showed nothing unusual until 3:14 a.m., when for a fraction of a second, one of the dolls appeared to shift, its head turning ever so slightly toward the camera. He uploaded the clip, and while skeptics claimed it was edited, those who had their own experiences with the doll swore it was real. The most disturbing reports are not about physical movement, but about dreams. Owners all over the world describe vivid, terrifying dreams after bringing Labubu into their homes. The details are eerily similar. The dreamer finds themselves in a dark room or a forest, hears faint laughter, and then sees Labubu approaching slowly. Its teeth glisten in the dark, its eyes fixed, and just as it reaches them, it leans in as if to whisper something. No one remembers the words, only the feeling of waking up in panic. Heart racing, drenched in sweat, with the echo of that laughter fading into the silence of the night. In Hong Kong, Whispers connect Labubu to older legends. There is a story of a forest spirit, a trickster that lured travelers with its laughter. It could appear as a child or a small creature, drawing people deeper into the woods until they were lost. Some were found days later, eyes vacant, muttering nonsense. Others were never seen again. Locals called it the Little Trickster, a spirit not quite demon, not quite ghost, but something in between. Elders warned children not to follow laughter into the woods, for it never belonged to anything human. When Kenny Wong admitted that his dreams of the creature always took place in a forest, people began to wonder if he had dreamed of something that had always existed, something old and waiting to be remembered. And then there are the stories of those who tried to rid themselves of Labubu. A woman in Japan threw hers into the trash only to crash her car the same night. Another man in Singapore mailed his doll to a friend overseas, only for his apartment to catch fire the very next day. The friend who received the doll said he began to hear voices whispering in the dark, voices that grew louder the longer he kept it. These are coincidences, perhaps, or perhaps not. Collectors say that once Labubu enters your home, it does not like to leave. They say the doll chooses its owners, and if you try to abandon it, it punishes you. Some claim that the only way to be free of it is to pass it on willingly, to give it as a gift rather than to throw it away. Even then, they say it leaves a mark. Nightmares continue. Faint laughter lingers in the shadows. And though the doll is gone, the sense of being watched never fully disappears. Over the years, new versions of Labubu have been released. Bright, colorful designs, limited editions, monstrous variants with even sharper teeth and darker eyes. But what unsettles many is the feeling that these are not just playful designs. Some believe that with each new version, the spirit within grows stronger, that as Labubu spreads around the world, it gathers power, feeding on the attention, the fear, the belief. What began as a dream may now be something much more real, something living inside the dolls, waiting, growing. People who spend too much time staring at their Labubu often say they begin to see it move. Not in sudden, obvious ways, but subtle shifts, a tilt of the head, a slight change in the curve of its grin. Some swear its eyes follow them around the room. Others say that when they blink just for a fraction of a second, the doll looks different, closer, more alive. And then there are the dreams that become harder to escape. At first it is just Labubu standing in the distance, smiling. But as the nights go on, it gets closer, until finally it is standing over you as you sleep. One man claimed he woke up one night to find the doll on his chest, its face inches from his, smiling in the dark. When he blinked, it was back on the shelf. He moved out of his apartment within the week. Some say Labubu does not just haunt dreams. Some say it speaks. Quietly at first, whispers you cannot quite understand. But the more you listen, the clearer it becomes. A woman from Malaysia said she woke to hear a voice saying her name. She lived alone. The voice was high-pitched, playful, and came from the corner of her room, where Labubu sat. She sold it the next day, but she swore the voice followed her for weeks, calling her name from the shadows, laughing softly in the dark. In the United States, a collector posted about how he received a Labubu as a gift. He thought it was funny, strange, nothing more. But then his daughter began to complain of nightmares. She said a small creature with big eyes would come to her room at night, whispering things she couldn't understand. He brushed it off as imagination, until one night he woke to find his daughter standing in the hallway, staring blankly at the wall, whispering back to something only she could see. When he asked her who she was talking to, she simply said, "The funny doll." He locked Labubu in the attic that same night. The more these stories spread, the more Labubu became a figure of fear and fascination. For some, owning it is a thrill, a way to feel connected to something mysterious. For others, it is a mistake they regret. What is undeniable is the pattern, the laughter, the movement, the dreams, the accidents. Too many stories to be ignored. Skeptics will always say it is coincidence, imagination, hysteria feeding itself. But those who have stared too long into its wide, unblinking eyes know better. They know the way the room feels colder when it is there, the way silence seems heavier, the way shadows stretch a little further than they should. They know the way dreams become more vivid, more real, more terrifying. And sometimes they know the way it feels to wake in the middle of the night, certain that they are not alone, certain that something is standing just beyond the edge of the bed, smiling. Labubu is a doll, but it is also a shadow, a trickster, a spirit given shape. It is laughter in the dark, footsteps in the empty hall, whispers that follow you even when you are awake. It is a reminder that some things, once brought into the world, cannot easily be put back. So the next time you see Labubu on a shelf, smiling with its sharp teeth and wide eyes, ask yourself, is it just a toy? Or is it watching you, waiting, ready to follow you home? Because once it does, there may be no turning back. And when you wake at night, to the sound of soft laughter in the darkness, you will know the truth. Labubu was never just a doll. It was always something more. And now, it is yours.